Forgive us, Ada. We were
As the king
wrong.
slowly released Chinedu from the embrace,
Please,
tears continued to stream
have
down his
mercy.
face. For a long moment, neither father nor son spoke. Words were not enough to describe the joy of finding each other after more than 20 years. The entire village watched in silence. The same young man they had called a worthless stranger was standing in the arms of the king. The commander stepped forward and gently explained everything. "Your Highness," he said to Chinedu, "many years ago, enemies attacked the royal convoy while you were traveling with your parents. In the confusion, you disappeared. The soldiers searched for you day and night, but you were never found. The man who raised you must have rescued you without knowing who you truly were." The king nodded. "I never stopped looking for you," he said, his voice breaking. "Every birthday, I prayed that you were still alive. Every journey I made, I hoped I would see your face again." Chinedu's eyes filled with tears. "I always wondered why I felt different, why I had no memories before a certain age. Now I finally understand." The king smiled through his tears. "You have come home." Then his eyes fell on Ada. She stood quietly behind Chinedu, afraid to move. The king noticed the fear in her eyes. He walked towards her with kindness. "My child," he said gently, "who are you?" Before Ada could answer, Chinedu stepped forward. "Father, this is Ada." The king smiled. The young woman you love." "Yes, the woman I intend to marry." The villagers held their breath. They expected the king to object. After all, they had spent years convincing themselves that Ada was cursed. Instead, the king looked at her warmly. "My son has chosen you. That is enough for me. You are welcome in our family." Ada could no longer hold back her tears. For years, she had been rejected everywhere she went. Now the king himself was accepting her as his daughter. The villagers lowered their heads in shame. The village chief slowly stepped forward. "Your Majesty," he began nervously, we did not know." The king looked at him. "What didn't you know?" "That he was your son." The king's face became serious. "So if he had remained an ordinary man, would you still have treated him this way?" The chief said. The chief could not answer. Neither could the elders. The king turned to the crowd. "I have been watching since I arrived. I heard how you spoke about this young woman. I heard the names you called her. You judged her without proof. You abandoned her when she needed compassion. You punished an innocent woman simply because tragedy entered her life." The villagers stood in complete silence. Many of them could not even lift their heads. Ashamed, an elderly woman stepped forward. She fell to her knees before Ada. "My daughter, forgive me. I refused to sell food to you. I told my children never to speak to you. I was wrong." Soon another person stepped forward, then another. Within minutes, nearly the entire village was kneeling before Ada, asking for forgiveness. Some were crying openly. Others could not even find the words to speak. Ada looked around at the people who had once made her life miserable. She remembered the hunger, the loneliness, the insults, the nights she cried herself to sleep. For a brief moment, she could have chosen revenge. Instead, she gently wiped away her tears. "I forgive you," she said softly. A wave of relief swept through the crowd. But she continued, "I hope none of you will ever treat another innocent person the way you treated me." Her words pierced every heart in the village. The king smiled with pride. He turned to Chinedu. "You have chosen a woman with a beautiful heart." Then he faced the villagers once more. "In 3 weeks, my son will be officially declared crown prince before the entire kingdom. And on that same day," he smiled at Ada, "he will marry the woman who never stopped believing in kindness." Cheers erupted from the royal guards. The villagers watched in amazement. The woman they had once called a witch would soon become the crown princess. And one day, she would become their queen. None of them could have imagined that the girl they had once refused to greet would soon sit beside the throne of the kingdom. Destiny has spoken, and no one could change it. Subscribe for the next part.